Welcome to Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Our podcast showcases inspiring appraisers and professionals from the industry who are leaders in their field. How did they get to where they are? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Well, welcome to another informative, engaging, and just enjoyable episode. I'm excited to have Danyl with us. Danyl, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for having me today.
Oh man, we very much appreciate it, and as we're so excited. You bring another unique perspective to the conversation, and it's that community, generosity, and really openness that so many of our peers bring by subscribing and liking this podcast and then sharing it with others. So please continue to do that. Like this one. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done it already on the channel that you're getting it on. And of course, continue to share it because it's always fascinating and fun to get that message that says, oh my gosh, I have never heard your podcast before. And so just recommended it. And wow, it was a great experience that one of our peers had shared that I would have never heard the story if it wasn't for them being invited on the podcast. So for Danyl Collings, we appreciate it. We want to know, were you born this way or how'd you get into the valuation and appraisal profession?
I came from the evil side, Michael, of
oh my gosh, you were born somewhere else?
No, I was a real estate agent originally.
Is that a bad thing?
No.
My goodness. Were you in a real estate family growing up?
No, my mother was an education teacher in Bronx, New York, and she retired, and she's enjoying her retirement. And my father worked in the factories, and just a very hardworking guy, and they still live in New York, and they vacation sometimes in Jamaica. So yeah. Good nice. American dream family.
That sounds enjoyable. And so that means you're in New York.
I'm actually in Boston. I went to Northeastern University when it was much cheaper. And it was, I studied communications. So that's what I do. I'm a good communicator, they tell me. And
wow.
So I kind of stuck around.
I love that. And, we have so many firsts on these podcasts. You were definitely our first Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast guest that's a Northeastern alum. So congratulations for claiming that title.
Thank you. Wonderful institution.
Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. So you studied communications, and then I assume you naturally got hired by the Boston Globe or the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal to be communicating?
Michael, I had this crazy idea that I was going to be the next Stuart Scott.
Oh my gosh, you've got a good voice. I can totally get that.
I love sports, and I just remember ESPN when it was just so many personalities from Dan Patrick to Kenny Mayne. It was just gold for us. And I wanted
the
to
Berman.
Yeah,
Berman. I mean, come on, man, you're pulling it out there. I love the Stuart Scott reference.
Yes, yeah.
Have you ever met him?
I have not had the honor to, but, I felt like they were just a part of our lives. They kept us updated, and it was just a humorous take on everything, which I think why ESPN was so successful.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is something else. So, although you didn't get to meet him, I assume he was like was he your mentor? And you actually were, we didn't know this, but you've been very successful at ESPN or one of the other broadcast TV sports networks?
I decided that maybe, one of my good friends, Adam, who's kind of always directed me, said, maybe you should try, public relations. And so I started, I got into public relations, and I was working for agencies, working with high-tech companies. And so we were, doing just amazing news coverage and generating news coverage for them and writing press releases for them. So
wow, that's something else. So you got to actually apply your university education.
That's what I told my mom. It's not a waste. I used it.
Oh, that's good. That is so good.
Yeah.
So but here we're, somewhere along the line, you didn't stay in PR. What happened?
No. So, I was always interested in real estate. I just always
Okay.
just, and this is before all the TV shows, that we have on now, but just something about it. And that same friend, Adam, if he hears
Hmm.
this, he's going to love it, said, "Hey, I just got my real estate license. I think you'd be great." And so I
Wow.
got my real estate license. I took class in 2023. I got it in 2004.
Hmm.
And I was a real estate agent. And so I started doing some apartments, did some sales, worked with my friends, and
Hmm.
I was doing pretty good, doing pretty
Good
good.
for you.
Yeah.
And what happened?
I
Were you doing like the broker thing nights and weekends and doing your PR day job?
It was full time, 7 days a week, Monday
Oh,
through
you
Friday.
broke out, like you left
It was,
PR
yeah,
and you went right into the pool
right into
called
the
I'm going to
pool.
be a newbie broker,
Yeah.
where what is are the numbers, is it 9 out of 10 new brokers fail? I mean, I know the numbers are astonishing.
You might be close. I mean, did it for about 6 years, and it was full time, Saturdays and Sundays. And
Oh
I
wow.
think for me, what I realized is I love real estate, Michael, but I don't like working Sundays where I could be watching my horrible Jets as they lose every weekend.
You
So,
and Gary Vaynerchuk, huh?
so again, that sports. I love my sports. I love going to
Yeah.
sports. I love it, and I don't have time. I'm always showing houses. I'm doing open houses. I,
Oh
I
man.
was a miserable guy. So I said, I need something else. And so I thought, you know what, hey, maybe corporate. So I took a brief stint with UPS, and I was a sales rep for them for about a year
Oh,
and a
okay.
half.
Hmm.
And then that's where the appraisal came in around 2008. Is I was introduced to I met a friend at a networking event who became a friend. And
Hmm.
she said, "My mother works for this large appraisal company. I think you
Oh,
would be great."
really?
And I said, "Great at what?" And she said, "I think you'd be a great appraiser. It's a great field.
Wow.
You have the interest, the mindset for it." And she said, "I know they're looking for branch managers to, run the Massachusetts branch, Boston branch, because the guy was leaving. And, I think it'd be something that you would do really well." And so I
Interesting.
spoke to Kitty at the time and Al at the
Hmm.
time, and they were the two
Yeah.
managers at the company. And I said to, my friends, "I think this is where I want to go." So
Oh, so you came through the pathway of management into appraisal, having
correct.
been a broker as opposed to coming in as a broker.
Correct. Because I think at
Oh,
the
fascinating.
time was, 2008, which was a great time to get into business with short sales and foreclosures. The company decided that we needed to build our local sales network. They were doing work with
Mhm.
large, of course, mortgage companies, AMCs, but they wanted people, they were doing a test to see if they could get branch managers who could actually sell who were not
Mhm.
licensed. My friend in Chicago was one. She did a very good job with the Chicago branch. And there were two others. And
Yeah.
that's what we did. We just were supposed to sell, manage the office, manage our appraisers,
Mhm.
and do that.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So, what was that like stepping into a large established firm that had a specific geographic area they wanted you to manage? And I assume, given the timing, this was an in-office kind of thing. It wasn't remote like so many things are today.
Yeah, we had an office in Pawtucket, Rhode Island that we kind of managed all the appraisers for New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. That was the territory I covered. And so I would go to the office twice a week. I had two people there who would kind of manage the orders and everything, and or the customer service and the delivery and all that. So I think the company was great because it had all the sort of back end kind of support. We had, HR, we had
Mhm.
in corporate, we had all the people, we had all the support. But I think the challenge for me, Michael, was I felt helpless because if
Mm.
someone said effective age to me, I would say, "What are you talking about?" And
Yeah,
to
that's
me,
true.
if you're going to sell, you have to understand what you're selling.
Yes.
You have to be a subject matter expert of what you're giving to people. And I wasn't
Yep.
one.
That is definitely the case. Wow. And how big? How many people did you have to manage when you came in?
Well, 2008, I came in with eight, and then two
Yep.
left right off the bat because the
Oh
market.
no, because they saw you coming. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, damn!" I'm like, "Not that guy. He's not Stuart Scott. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm out."
It was bad. It was, and so, so what I did was that first year was just sort of me kind of understanding the business and everything. And then I think towards the end of the year, I called Kitty and I said, Kitty, I need to get certified because I need to understand this business in and out. Because there's just so many facets, I mean, hypothetical, extraordinary assumptions,
Yep.
appraising things that aren't there, all these things that we do. Where do we stop and go with regards to value versus inspection? All these things that we
Yep.
have to know. And so, she agreed and I did. So I worked with my supervisory appraiser at the time, Misty, who was an amazing person and a friend today. And she dealt with me, who, my first assignment was in a town called Brookline, and it was a 6,000 square foot house where, that's not the one you train on first. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So, how long were you with the business before you made the transition from being a broker to getting into appraisal?
Yeah, the broker thing, I think I did that for about 5 years full time. And then I think the last two was kind of a part time thing. And then I just said, you know what, I would rather kind of get into maybe buying stuff and being a landlord. So that kind of took over the sales aspect of it. So, I bought a condominium in Boston and then I had dreams of buying more things. So
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So, what was it like stepping in? This is a perspective we've not heard yet gosh, over 8 seasons of coming into the profession, not as a real estate appraiser, but being in the mix of the business.
I think the great thing is I had amazing, and I do say it all the time, an amazing company. Foresight Appraisals was a family-run company. They made you feel like not just an employee, but family. They genuinely cared about quality and their name recognition. Very important. And then we had just, from John and Tim to, Alan Hummel was your first interview. That's how
Oh yeah,
I've been
bringing out
listening
number
since,
one.
I've been listening since there. So,
Oh man, that's
Alan was an amazing chief appraiser for us. And he was always that person who had a great perspective on things, and he would defend us in situations where we needed to be defended. So, you have a great staff, a great leadership. You can do anything, Michael, and that's what we had.
And was from your experience coming in, obviously you were exposed and experienced in real estate, so that wasn't new, and you knew of appraisal because as a broker, you probably met a number of them over the years with all the properties and stuff you sold. What were the biggest observations of things you either didn't know or didn't expect getting involved in an appraisal business, having been a broker?
That's a great question. I think I learned how much there's so much regulation in what we do. I learned so much that my signature on that appraisal goes to so many places, and I have to make sure that information can stand on its own. I learned that there's a lot of people who want to sway us. It could be, I need it low, I need it high. I need to write a report that can, again, stand on its own, and the number is the number. The value range is the value range. So I think I didn't realize the amount of pressure that appraisers are under. But to me, you can be a high-level professional that people might not always agree with, but they respect. And that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be.
Oh man, that is fantastic. That's really helpful. And what did your responsibilities stay the same the whole time you were there at Foresight, or did they change?
Yeah, so I was basically managing a team, and then now it was how do I add more people? So I ended up growing the team to, we had 6 certified appraisers and 4 trainee appraisers. So that's kind of where I learned about the whole trainee and the benefit, I think, of a trainee, and not just getting people in the business, but getting good people. So I kind of say I experimented with the Foresight family, and I appreciate them for allowing me to do that.
Well, that's a great learning experience. And so many times, I mean, we think about it. How do, I know you're a parent, you watch kids. How do they learn?
They learn from the behavior that I exemplify with my wife and their mother.
yeah.
And so, anything that I wouldn't do, I tell them not to do, and anything I would do, I tell them to do. And that's a great example from you. That's kind of how I approach it.
And for most of us, and same with kids, at different ages, it's also that exploration, moving around, whatever movement looks like at the various age, and interacting with things, touching things, getting a sense of things. And if you look at it, for almost everyone, it's not I just came up with it on my own. And for some are extremely creative and they'll do that. But for almost everybody else, it's exposure to something first that it provides information that then you may or may not do something with. Like in your case, you didn't know real estate brokerage before you took the exams, got in, started practicing, learning from others along the way, dealing with buyers and sellers and people that love appraisers and people that don't until you got into the profession.
True.
Yeah. No. Oh my goodness. What? So that's another helpful perspective, because most people in the profession either work for a large firm or very small, or they're on their own. What did you gain perspective of while you were at Foresight that informed you? Because ultimately, as people you will hear in a minute, you're no longer at Foresight. You have a successful business of your own. What were some of those takeaways that, because of their company success, structure, and training, that really stuck with you?
I think people will do business, or people will work with people that they like and trust, and I think that's so important. We're in a industry where there's a lot of trust when you put signatures on things, especially if a trainee's doing an aspect. I have to have trust that they're doing what I taught them. So, just being a good example and a good person to them, being honest, I think you can work more on this, you can work more on that. And I think, Michael, it's important that you can't forget your own training experience. My trainer, Misty, was one of the best. She really was. Yes. Knowledgeable in so many facets, and she was a good teacher. And so I learned that not just, finding people, I need to be a good teacher. How I do that is by segmenting different aspects. I make sure that they know how to take pictures of a property. Then we move on to actually measuring the property. Then we move on to actually, what do you see in regards to granted versus outdated versus the systems, etc. And I make them all take a construction course so they understand construction. And then we just add more parts. They're doing, the grid section. Then we get into, because I save, certain aspects, land and cost and all that. So I think if you bring people along, they can keep building on their experiences, and then you'll find people who are very competent.
Yeah, that's a great way to go about it. Obviously you had a background in PR, so communication's one of your strengths. You worked for clients, you had that experience and that opportunity. You went from working in a business to business setting to a person to person setting by moving into brokerage. Then you move over into appraisal. Mm-hmm. The experience coming in as management, how long did you stay on that level before you start taking your own courses and pursuing the appraisal education?
The market right now is tough for appraisal companies. Many companies are having a hard time getting enough work with the same marketing they used to. Is your company struggling, having a hard time getting new customers, or getting additional work from existing customers? The answer to this problem is easier than you think. Do more business with the people you already know. Over 10 years, the average U.S. appraisal firm meets over 17,000 potential customers. That's a lot of people you could be doing business with right now. But it's a big problem if you don't have a proven process to communicate with them. StoryLux turns this problem into an opportunity to grow. Our advanced AI marketing tool can rebuild your contact lists and harvest long-forgotten communications. Imagine reaching out to everyone you've ever met with just one click. For the cost of 1 or 2 appraisals a month, StoryLux helps you reconnect and market to people who already know you, like you, trust you, and want to do business with you. Act now by contacting Storylux today to turn your business growth dreams into reality. Email appraisal@storylux.com. That is appraisal@storylux.com. And now back to part 2 of the episode.
Yeah, so the first year I didn't do anything. I'd say year 2, I basically took all the trainee courses, and then I was also doing appraisals as well. Now, managing an office is going to take me longer than it was 2 years minimum at the time and 2,500 hours of appraisal. So it took me longer because I'm still managing an office. I'm still doing sales. I'm still doing all those things. But I'd say 2015 is when I got certified. And I just went straight from trainee to certification. And, the thing I think I learned, Michael, that I tell everyone is even year 3 as a trainee, I was very good. And so I tell my trainees, just because you're a trainee, don't let people box you as someone who doesn't know. It's all about the knowledge and how far you want to go. Because I've had trainees where I'm reviewing reports, and they could do better stuff than some of the stuff I'm reviewing.
Fantastic. Oh, that's an amazing experience. So were you, did you have an opportunity to, like you said, you were managing and you were appraising. So that's an interesting experience that most people actually deal with, is to the extent that they don't work for another firm, they've got to both take care of the assignments as well as take care of the business of getting the assignments. And I definitely appreciate and have my own very strong opinions, which I'll withhold most of them, about that. I'm a huge fan of Michael Gerber's work from the E-Myth Revisited, and I think every single person in the appraisal profession that doesn't work for someone else should totally read that book, mainly for 3 reasons. First, you don't know what you don't know. Second, there's so many things to make your life easier by starting to understand the success and failure of others that have gone before the path you're on. And third, almost, but not all, but almost everybody starts out as a technician and then may stay in that role or move into another role. And that's really what that book highlights, informs, and also dispels a lot of myths, but then encourages people with some specific steps they can take if they're going to choose to be in the role of not just a producer, but also performer. And definitely I hear that you made that transition. At some point you left Foresight, and then sounds like, did you go out on your own after that?
Yeah. So, I think the great thing about being a branch manager is I was exposed to everything, but HR and corporate still handled HR. Accounting still handled accounting. They still chased people when they didn't pay, all those things. So I was insulated from that. The company was acquired, and, the family had every right to sell. It was a great time, I think. And I had 2 choices of whether I stay with the new company or I go on my own. And I was, newly married at the time. And I said to my wife, I think I'm going to go on my own, because I had sort of the blueprint of success, and it wouldn't be exact, but, I felt good about, what I could do. And so I went on my own for about a year. And then after that, I had some trainees who didn't have work at the old company. And I was able to, actually 3 years, because it's 3 years, you got to be certified, then you can train. I was able to bring them on and help them finish to go from trainee to certified. And 2 of those people still work with me today. And then I've trained probably 4 others, and 2 work with me. So we have a team.
Wow, that is great to hear. What a wonderful way to contribute to others and help grow the industry in the process.
Yeah.
I love that. So when did you stay in the same geographic area of, I know you said originally they were looking to bring in someone to manage kind of Massachusetts, specifically Boston. Have you stayed in that same area? Have you moved around a bit in that time frame?
Yeah, I'm in the same area. I'm in the suburbs now, but we don't do Rhode Island. We do Massachusetts very well, and we do a small lower end of New Hampshire. And, again, if I was going to expand, I would probably hire a trainee and work with them and move into that area. I worked for, UPS in Rhode Island, so I'm very familiar with Rhode Island and the time I spent down there. So business decision again that I have to decide if it's the right time or not. So
yeah, no, I totally respect that. The interesting piece along the way, you had an opportunity to work with a well-regarded firm, fully established. Obviously, they did transition as many firms do over periods of time. And were you with them at that time, or did they buy you out and then you had to, you were just a free man with, a lot of money in your pocket? You're like, I just want to do appraisal for fun.
Well, no, the buyout's not big. It's no buyout. It's more of you got two choices, and bigger firm. And look, I mean, I say the great thing is when you own the company, everyone has every right to do what they want to do, and you have a choice on if you want to stay or not. And you know what, Michael, I take that same approach to some of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
I have a choice if I want to work with you and deal with it, or I could replace you and find someone else. And I keep the same motto. And it was just a good time. I mean, it was the first time I was responsible for everything. And I think, I have to remind people, family members too, that it's not just me appraising. I have to get the business, I have to make sure the quality is good. I have to make sure we deliver it on time. I have to make sure that I collect money so I can pay people. I have to make sure that I run payroll every 2 weeks. I have to make sure that we do our training and we do our meetings, whether it's a lunch meeting or, I'll take a report that I think is good or bad and redact stuff and throw it to them and say, what do you think? And we'll have a great discussion. So you're running a company, and it's, everyone in the appraisal business, whether you like it or not, you're a business owner.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. What when you left Foresight and went out on your own, what were one or two of the striking or surprising experiences that you now had to deal with?
I think the one that you get used to it is that you're going to submit the report and then you might have to wait a month before you get paid. That's one. And that's
don't tell me about it.
And that's great bank, so you have to manage your cash flow.
Cash flow.
Yeah, that's one. And I think two is, the operations is a real aspect of it. And so we use, Now, which is a great software in my opinion. I've tried a couple, and that helps tremendously. And I also have an office assistant that helps me with the orders and everything, who understands the business, who can help me with, because I have to go in the field sometimes or sales visit or doing this podcast. So I think just you have to have a good support team in everything you do. Everything.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely love that. And what is from the experience you had at Foresight, what was your vision for having your business as opposed to going to work for another great firm like Foresight?
I think the great thing is I want to be a company that has a good name and a good reputation, the same way as Foresight. So that's one. I think two is, like Foresight, we're not going to get every order, but we want to be compensated and respected for what we do. And I think three is you want to grow in a smart way. You don't want to just, because you don't want to just add people and you don't have work for them. And is it a benefit to your clientele? So is it a benefit to the group? I think, it's nice to have people in different areas. And when we come together, they actually provide more knowledge and growth to each other as well. So.
Got it. That totally makes sense. Love that kind of thing. And so with that intention for going out on your own, how long did it take you to be a starving artist before you were able to actually, tell your spouse that this was a good idea and no, I didn't need to go manage somebody else's business?
I think we were starting a family, so it kind of works out. Works out to have the flexibility. And I had some clients that I had some, very good relationships with who were looking for me. And, we connected there and it just kind of worked. I think you start out maybe with, maybe more of an AMC heavy kind of thing. And then you kind of make a decision on, I think you got to get to a point of long relationships. I don't want to just be a vendor. I want to be a relationship with my client. For example, we have a client where we do all their home equity. They will actually order 2055s for their home equity.
Okay.
We help them with their refi purchase, and then we're on the
Mhm.
panel there. And then, the commercial, the new construction, or if an investor owns 5 properties, we can help them if they're residential. So that's a client that I have 3 different levels. That those are the kind of clients we like, and we're trying to. If I can get at least 2 lines of business out of each one, that's a great thing.
Yeah, definitely, definitely can appreciate that. How have you focused on being in a marketplace on your own where before you had a name? Like you showed up and it was associated with a well-established company that had long-established relationships. And you show up and obviously maybe some of the people you'd worked with in the past knew you, but nobody knows you.
I think it's important, Michael. You have to have a brand. And when I say brand, you have to have a website. It's still not
Hmm.
outdated. You have to have, it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be fancy. It needs to have good content. Mine is very simple. I think you have to have a business card. I think you can build a brand through, we have ID things that we wear to every inspection so people know who we are. It puts people at ease that we're licensed professionals. We're not just someone that, who are you?
Yes.
So I think all of that. And I think also trying to be the subject matter expert, whether it's, speaking on a panel Wednesday about ADUs, or,
Hmm.
I do continuing ed with an old friend of mine to real estate agents, trying to just be that go-to expert. That's
Got it.
also part of our brand as well.
I definitely can appreciate that. So, as it being part of the brand, I mean, yes, a website, but Field of Dreams, kind of reminded us, for those that know the reference to the movie, and you being a sports guy, that if you build it, will they come? And the answer is pretty much no, they won't. So, what did you do early on? Because and what year was it that you started building your own business?
2016.
Oh, 2016. So what were you doing in 2016 to actually make sure you could eat?
Sure. Well, I mean, so I had a couple of people, and what I found is, you're right. If you build it, you got to go get it. And,
Yeah, that's a good way to
and
put it.
so what I learned, Michael, with the public relations degree from Northeastern that paid itself, is communication. People do business, again, with people they like and trust. I
Hmm.
found that the decision maker at the bank, whether it's the VP of lending, or or sometimes the CEO, or
Yeah.
president, is someone I need to know. I need to show them how we're different. I need to market not just to them, but I need to be um, a resource. And one of the things that we do is we have an annual golf tournament that we do with a friend of mine, a real estate friend of mine, husband and wife real estate team. And we invite our clients, and it's a thank you to them. It's complimentary to them, and I like the game of golf. So that's one that has
Ah,
helped in
okay.
regards to relationship. Even if you don't give me a single order, I'll invite you, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
eventually you'll come over to us, and you'll give us an opportunity. So stay close to the people who do business with you, and closer to the ones who give you zero, is my motto.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So basically, what you're saying is for people that are thinking about this as an opportunity, they just need to go put together a golf outing, and suddenly they're going to be just as just as well received and well regarded and successful as you.
Yeah, but I mean, different, you can, if you're targeting attorneys, maybe you become the subject matter expert for them. There's
Hmm.
so many, we always talk financing, but probate, there's so many different avenues of our business, where, people can give you the whole thing. There's no panel. It's just, here you go.
Hmm.
So I think targeting them as well. And I think they like people who are knowledgeable. I think it's important for me to be a very good review appraiser, because if they have an issue, usually it's with a report, and I tell them what I think and what I see. And then from there, I can gain their trust and confidence. So again, being that subject matter expert, I think opens the door for a lot of things, because there's not often to get to communicate with real estate appraisers, but if we can do it in a way that we can talk and communicate the right way, not I can't talk to you. You're not my client. There's a time and place for that. You'll find good things.
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that. How has your business evolved from 2016 till today?
So we started out with some local clients, and we were, obviously AMC. And I think now I could say that about 70% of our work is local bank, credit union, attorney, real estate partners. Someone called me today on a crazy one. So that's a majority of what we do. And then I'd say 30% is AMC.
Love that. Nice intentional mix of business. How does that fulfill you choosing to have that type of clientele?
I think the one thing I've always tried to follow is treat people the way you want to be treated. So I put myself in the role of my team and say, what would I like? And the local bank allows me to pay them very well. It allows me to give them an opportunity that doesn't have so many revisions. They're not going to question you if you're missing a period or a comma or this, kind of stuff. And, I think also it broadens your mind, especially with the attorney and the probate. So it's always interesting. We did a 3-family in Boston that they needed a value of 10 years ago. The fee was right. And also that's someone who's going to respect our expertise. And my appraiser did a great job on that. So that's who I want to be too. Someone who can handle the tough thing. Anything residential we can do.
Love that. That is a great thing. So, given everything you've seen, you've learned, and you've experienced so far, what are you optimistic or looking forward to over the next 3 to 5 years?
I think I'm optimistic that, COVID kind of threw us for a looper, but I think relationship matters. We see it on the tagline with banks, and why not with us? I think relationship matters. And again, sometimes I'm going to give people news that they don't like or they don't agree with. And it just has to be supportable and reliable and objective, and if that is in there, we're good to go. And, it's going to be interesting. I think there's still a lot of opportunity. We've added 2 banks already this year who, longer prospects, but they're giving us opportunities now, and we're delivering on those opportunities. And, I just think there's always people, sadly, that get divorced and people who die. So that business is always going to be strong. And I think networking with other appraisers, they don't have to be your enemy, and other people who think like you. And, we talk about these kind of things all the time, and I get good advice from them too as well, even though they're friendly competitors. So.
Got it. That is fantastic. Well, Danyl, man, we always appreciate hearing the perspectives and experiences of peers. It is one that we would not get the opportunity to have without your thoughtfulness and generosity to come on and share a little bit. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure today, and I appreciate everything you're doing with this podcast.
Oh, thank you. And, people want to reach out to you. They love a little bit of what you've done and what you've shared. How can they find you?
So our website, I actually simplified it. So it's DC Valuations, my initials, and the website is dcval.com. Very simple.
Love it. Very nice. Very nice. Well, Danyl, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Have a great week.
Wonderful. Well, friends, thanks for joining us for another informative, insightful, and engaging conversation with a peer to get a sense of what they're up to, what they've been doing, and where they're going. And until the next one, have a fantastic day.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Appraisers, Appraisers on Purpose. We hope you enjoyed learning from the amazing professional paths and achievements of our beloved guests. Before we go, please subscribe on your listening channel, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other podcast channels to hear more from appraisers and valuers regarding their life and their work. After you drop a comment below, who is one friend and peer you can generously share this episode with? If you have any suggestions or questions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for listening, and until we're together again for the next session of Appraisers on Purpose, create the change that you seek.